Hello, everyone, and welcome to Control Your Cloud Costs with Harness. Today's webinar is sponsored by Harness and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm truly thrilled to be your moderator for this special event today. But before we get to the discussion, we have a few housekeeping items you need to know that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any and all questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. That's right over there on your right-hand side. We'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we will discuss in detail some of the top questions that you ask. Now, that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be having. A browser refresh will fix most audio-video issues that you have. If you can't hear something, if that doesn't work, well, give your browser another refresh. Usually a couple of refreshes are necessary. And if that doesn't work, let us know, and we will hop on it and give you further technical assistance. All right, next, check out the handouts section right next to the questions tab. That's got some great resources for you, including an awesome handout for learning more about Harness. You'll also find a link to the ATM Decisions Group, which is a panel of IT decision makers that you can apply to join to participate in some more in-depth events and other opportunities. In that handout section, you'll also see a link to the ATM Events Center, which has our calendar of more upcoming events just like this one. Okay, at the end of this webinar, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant, which may be you. Of course, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handouts section. If you like really boring reading, legalese and stuff like that, check that out. Okay, and finally today, one of the best benefits of this or any Actual Tech Media events is the opportunity to question these experts. And to help encourage those questions, we have a special additional prize for you today. And that's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. So after the event's over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. And with that, why don't we get to the main event? It is my pleasure today to introduce you to our presenters, Jeffrey Merlin, VP for Strategic Finance, and Puneet Saraswat, VP of Engineering for Harness. They are joining us live right now. I see both of them right there. So, gentlemen, let's get into it. Welcome to the event. Okay, I don't think we can hear you, Jeffrey. Let's see if we can fix that real quick.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There you go, there you go. Okay, Jeffrey, I'll have you and Puneet introduce yourselves and give us a little bit of background as we get started here.
Go, Puneet.
Yeah, so hey everyone, thanks Keith for running this. I'm Puneet, I'm VP Engineering at Harness, and my responsibility is all the platform services in Harness. I have over a decade of experience building and operating in cloud. So I'm intimately familiar with how a runaway cost can affect your budgets. And so, yeah.
Great. Yeah, my name is Jeff. I'm the VP of Finance here at Harness. I've been here for about 5 years, and I've been in the enterprise software space for about 10 years, and have faced all kinds of issues related to forecasting our cloud costs and as Puneet mentioned, controlling the budgets for those.
Okay. So truly a couple of experts with us. All right, so why don't we dive into this discussion, which I know is going to be absolutely fascinating, and I've been looking forward to it. So first question today to you, Puneet. How and when did FinOps become a priority at Harness?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question and ask for reflection. So I've been with Harness for a long time. Like 6 years ago, we were a 15 people team, and I remember we were always a cost conscious culture in engineering at Harness. So the first instance I remember where we were paying for our log analytics service, and that was around $5,000 a month budget. And like our CTO that time was, okay, this is too much related to what we were doing that time, with a small team. That time our approach was still like whack-a-mole approach, where okay, we see this cost is spiking, and then we engineering take an action and like firefight that. And but as we scaled from in our platform to a multi-product line platform with multiple teams, and that's where it was clear that we need more structured FinOps approach, and that's where we started more building cloud cost management product for ourselves and practicing those FinOps practices in engineering for us.
I think, Puneet, you kind of said it all when you said about how your old boss said, hey, you're spending too much here. And of course, you're expected to do more with less, right? I mean, this is kind of the scenario that every sort of environment faces, at least the IT people in the environment. Would you agree with what Puneet said here, Jeffrey?
Yeah, similar to Puneet, I was here at Harness whenever we were much smaller than we are today, and I can remember, meeting monthly with our engineering team to kind of swat down some of those log costs that Puneet was mentioning, and kind of going through one by one to see which ones are the biggest ones to eliminate, so we can save on the budget.
Exactly. So here we are today, dealing with these same questions that we've dealt with for so long. So next question, and this is for you, Puneet, to start off with, and then Jeffrey can jump in if he would like to. How have your teams, meaning specifically here, finance and engineering, traditionally worked together?
Yeah, I think the Harness is like very close-knit collaboration cross department. So it starts with on this one, finance asking the right questions. So I remember like first couple of questions which come out is the unit economics. Like as we are growing our service, more customer acquisition, and then like our finance buddies will ask, okay, how do we think about unit economics? And the other thing was, as new product lines are coming, like how do we think about the cost and pricing for, right? Like, and both questions are related, but those are the kind of questions we get asked, and so that's where the things start collaboration.
Right. Jeffrey, anything to add here to how Puneet laid it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that, obviously finance and engineering have different viewpoints on the world and have different goals, but we're all trying to row in the same boat. And one of the rules that we don't have on here today that's really crucial for us is a kind of our engineering operations team, who kind of help bridge the gap between engineering and finance, where they can speak the very technical language of an engineer, but also speak the technical language of a finance professional and understand from both angles the goals they're trying to achieve. So thankfully we have that and tooling to help us here at Harness.
And they can be, very specific in terms of the language and the understanding of the technology, different levels and things like that. So, so Jeffrey, this one is for you. You and Puneet do have somewhat different perspectives, although you work for the same company as with every company. So how do each of you, we'll start with you, Jeffrey, how do each of you look at the outcomes you'd like to achieve from FinOps?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are taking a very much a macro perspective, where we are trying to guide the company to its financial and operational goals. And so, like with that lens, we then view our costs on, as Puneet mentioned, a unit basis, and look at our percentage of revenue that we're spending on production cloud costs, and look at our how much non-production is per developer, and kind of like manage it that way. And when we see things start to go kind of outside of, or kind of off the rails, that kind of is what leads us to questions. And most of the time, that's where we would look to either our FinOps counterparts or engineering counterparts to help us understand what's going on inside the business and whether or not that's an opportunity or a risk for us and to our financial model.
Got you. Now, Puneet, can you give us kind of the more engineering perspective here?
Yeah, I think your outcome, the question, like the stage we are at Harness is like we are a growth stage company. We want to grow our business and we want to build more. And the key in this time and what we want to achieve in engineering is efficient growth. We deeply care about developer productivity and time to market and bringing more innovation to fuel our the business growth. At the same time, we want to do it in a way which is responsible and which is optimal in the cloud cost. So things about like what matter is like how do we eliminate the waste and how do we make sure there are guardrails for people so they're not stepping on each other. Right, like there is always this conflict of if you are moving fast, you're breaking things, but don't do it in a way which is coming in the way where we are going over budget, right? So that's what I call about how do we put guardrails so developers are productive, they can innovate, and we are not putting processes which is coming in the way to move fast. At the same time, there is no runaway cost which is coming up. There is no we have full visibility, and so in the end, what I would say one word is efficient growth for us, and all the FinOps practices make sure we achieve that.
Okay. And along with that, FinOps is just really hard to do, to be honest. It's fast moving. There's a lot of data going back and forth. There's just a ton of stuff happening in the cloud, on premises, et cetera. So Jeffrey, I'll give this to you first. Given what we've just been talking about, what are some of the top challenges that Harness is hoping to solve with implementing FinOps practices?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of it is around the visibility of what's actually occurring on the engineering side and what they're going to be implementing and when they plan to implement it. And so, whether we're launching a new product or we're has some other initiative that has a meaningful impact to our cloud costs and our infrastructure costs, we want to understand that both from a just strategic level of like why we're doing this that way, but also the cost implications of that, so that we can better understand how that's going to impact us. Again, from a financial perspective. But outside of that, like obviously we want to make sure we are reducing as much waste as possible, and therefore saving the company money and allowing us to invest that money in other resources that are not on the cloud. Also, just like understanding the cost allocation so that we can get better visibility into the unit economics of if we have 12 plus products at Harness today, and it's really important for us to understand the infrastructure costs of each of those. Because the way those products grow are how our cost infrastructure is going to grow as well. So.
Great. Okay, so Puneet, Jeffrey just laid out a really nice overview of these challenges. So can you tell us then how has Harness CCM, which is an acronym for Cloud Cost Management, accelerated solving these challenges that Jeffrey just laid out?
Yeah, I think the one thing that Jeffrey's laid out was around the cost allocation. I think that's where CCMT tool has really helped. Harness, we have cloud footprint across multiple cloud providers. So we have large spend in like all three, majority AWS, GCP, and some in Azure as well. So how do we build a single pane of glass? And given we have 12 plus product in our platform, how do we allocate it? So the one particular feature called perspectives in CCM is very uh, handy for this, where you can bring all cloud costs from all different providers into one place, and you can put these perspectives, which kind of are the views which are kind of tuned for particular teams' resources. And what you can do on top of is you can have reporting and budgeting on it. So what we have done is we have really doubled down on this in our FinOps practice, where we are having per team perspectives with budget allocated to it, and we are tracking anything which are going off budget and forecast, and we are able to take action, and that has become part of our culture. Uh, and we're going to talk about like how FinOps culture has helped with the CCM features. So that is definitely one. The other one is eliminating waste, and there are some features in CCM which is about like how do we automate the cost savings. So that's where my team particularly loves like anything which they don't have to do something and tool takes care of it. So I think something more we can talk about later on eliminating waste use cases.
Great. Okay, Jeffrey, this is something for you. There are also there have in the past there's traditionally been, kind of a I don't want to say a fight, but a different way of looking at cost between finance and engineering, right? And how has FinOps now, kind of a combination of those, how has that helped bridge this gap between the wants that each of these two different groups traditionally have wanted to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, understanding the why is the most important thing, and why that's the best choice for the business overall. And so, finance can be very quantitative in nature, and just purely looking at the numbers doesn't always tell the story. And so, FinOps has really helped provide that perspective on the initiatives that are going on and inside of the engineering organization, and the strategies they're deploying to that are going to propel our business forward. And that's why honestly the unit economic and kind of the key metrics that we look at as a finance organization is really important for us to align on with both the FinOps organization as well as the engineering teams, because once you get to the atomic unit that you're looking at, it's very easy to understand whether or not a trend is going the right way or the wrong way, relative to what you want to do as a business. And I think FinOps plays a really crucial role in bridging that gap between you have $1,000 budget and you're at $2,000 this month, versus we had 5 engineers, now we have 10 engineers, and so our cost per engineer is the same. Maybe our feature velocity is growing, but at a unit level, we're not, unit economic level, we're not out of bounds necessarily. So helps bring that context.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Puneet, this is kind of a subject that can be tricky, but is really important in terms of making sure there's an alignment. From your perspective, how do you encourage a sense of shared responsibility for cloud costs across the different teams and departments that we've been talking about here today?
Yeah, I think there's more of a larger cultural question, and if you see how do we bring this change in the culture where most of the engineering folks are busy with the work, which is building features and supporting production and fixing bugs. And so last thing you would like is like for them to be caring or worrying about one more thing, right? So but the key here is in the culture, like how do we bring that transparency, visibility, and people know that they can the actions they take can make an impact. And right, so So that's where like what we have done is like we care very much about like we are very data driven culture in harness engineering. So we care about productivity metrics, we care about the quality, and we care about, as part of the same thing, the cost as well. So we have this practice. We do like a weekly report we share across the team, and which is available for all engineering leaders and rest of the engineering to see, which talks about all these the metrics which drive the business. So for productivity side, the thing is what are the velocity for features and what is the quality, and one key item there is the cost for each team, and who like are we how far we are from budget, like both side, like under budget and over budget, both are the areas where we have discussions on the team in the team on a weekly basis. So what I found is just having that has started having these conversations where people are running, say, a performance or scale test for particular use case and on a week, but the teams are proactive enough to bring that up to the in jobs to say, okay, this is something which is planned activity for this use case, and I need like, okay, this much increase in my budget. So just having that kind of visibility in the culture is bringing in things where people are conscious about, and what it is it's eliminating is, okay, like you run some tests and you forget to clean things up. Just doesn't happen because like the culture in the engineering and the weekly discussions we are having is kind of surfacing that up.
So, Jeffrey, along those same lines, I think one of the things that can help a lot in these situations when you have, you can have siloed groups, right? To use an industry buzzword, and can be a lot of kind of territorialism. Each group wants their own. How important can it be, would you say, if you can speak to this, of having a shared goal among all the teams, kind of one thing you're all going for versus everyone wanting to get their little piece of the pie? Is that something that plays in here?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, as Puneet was mentioned about the report that, our budget allocation exercise that we do, one of the things I think is really important that Finops kind of helps drive at our company is it is that center of excellence where, we can see, we're fortunate enough now where, we have many engineering teams. And so we can compare the engineering performance against one another, and then also share, have the Finops practice share those kind of best practices, and we get visibility into things that might be unique and unique within an engineering organization and to that product, but also share the best practices we have around controlling the costs and giving that visibility to the engineering leaders, so that they can kind of see on the if they're on the naughty list, like what can they do about it, and they reach out to the Finops team and see how they can bring that cost down, or if there's a legitimate argument that they need to have actually more budget for whatever reason, they can have that conversation. So.
Right. Absolutely. Thanks. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about the kind of the lay of the land. We've been setting the table, talking about the issues that are involved here. We haven't talked specifically much about Harness yet and its products and how they can be involved. So I want to move to there at this point. So let me ask you first, Puneet, what are the Harness cloud cost management capabilities that each team finds most valuable in these scenarios, and why?
Yeah, I think so. For my team, like engineering, what it loves, because of the 100 things engineering has to take care today. What they love is like if something gets taken care without they having to go do it. So that's where automation plays a big role. And the cloud cost management product is doubling down on a lot of like intelligent automation for like managing the cost efficiently. So one particular feature which is a favorite for our team is cloud asset management, and another one would be the auto stopping feature. So what asset management does is it is very policy based rule engine where you can put things about, okay, like find me like unused disks in my environment, or the resources or CPU idle VMs, and things like the IP addresses which are not attached to any, right? Like, so that is the kind of thing which, and then you can put action on it. So, and team loves that kind of things where you can put policies and things happen. And so in similar line, there is this auto stopping feature which is very cool innovation, which Harness, very unique to Harness cloud cost management. So what it does is it can detect any activity on your workload, both foreground and background, and you can set policies. Okay, if you find the resources idle, it will shut it down. And the key innovation is if say somebody wants to reach the resource, there is we can detect and bring up the resource, so you kind of get on demand hydration of the services as well there. So that is also very powerful feature which is very popular inside Harness as well. And goes without saying, we talked about perspectives and visibility. So that culture starts with first you having visibility to how much you're costing and which you are responsible for. And so
Excellent. So great stuff there, Puneet. Jeffrey, do you want to take a crack at this one? I'm going to kind of restate the question here. What are the Harness CCM capabilities that each team finds most valuable, and why? You may want to approach that more from the finance perspective.
Yeah, so I'll start with the shared one in terms of like just the perspectives and getting the single pane of glass for visibility across all your cloud costs. That's something hugely valuable to not only us, but our accounting teams as well. And the other thing from a risk perspective is the anomaly detection, where we are alerted whenever a cost kind of starts to get a little bit out of control relative to what it's done historically. And that gives us a lot of comfort, because traditionally finance teams would review their costs at the end of the month, and oftentimes that's much too late, reviewed way too late, and you're kind of incurring these extra costs while you wait for the close to happen. And getting that level of insight and visibility early on in the process, so that we can work with our engineering teams to make sure that that's an expected behavior and not something that needs to be corrected, is extremely valuable. Another thing for us on the finance side is we oftentimes are in charge of managing the commitments or the contractual discounts that come with running in the cloud. And so the commitment orchestrator that we have in our cloud cost product allow us to really quite easily manage all of those commitments and recommendations that we have coming through the system, and make sure that we're getting the best price on our usage that we possibly can.
Great stuff. So now you've talked about the capabilities that Harness brings to the table. So can either or both of you speak to some practical examples? So give us some use cases of how this has happened, how Harness has improved operations, saved money in these real world environments. This is something that Puneet, I'll ask you to start with.
Yeah, I think the many examples, and so first one comes to mind is like the first time we put the cloud asset governance, enabled that for one of our environment, and what we learned was that there was immediate like $10,000 plus waste happening because there were so many EBS volume which were unattached. And what we never thought that was possible, because we were so much like, our culture was like we were tracking budgets for years and years, and we were like looking at all the environments and automation in it. But we figured out like first time you run it, there's so much waste, and we root caused, and it feels like it came out like we have the automation, but there is the bug where okay, like the VM gets cleaned up, but there is the way the API is called, the volumes are not getting cleaned up, and how do you surface this up? And this which didn't never came is came when the asset governance got enabled. So that is one aha moment we had. Okay, this is the first time we put a light on this area which was lingering for so long. Other Jeff mentioned about anomalies. So we have this very cool feature where we are running these machine learning models to see is there a discrepancy in the way. Like, so yesterday you were paying like the cost was $50 and today we are seeing this $500, and then we get alerted and through a Slack message. And so there were like a few success stories in that end as well. And there I see like this is also the practice is about alerting on the cost anomalies, but it is very closely tied to the production quality as well. So one instance I remember is suddenly our CDN cost kind of grew 10x from the last day, and we got alerted and we kind of looked into it. It kind of triggered our incident protocol, and we figured out there was a new change which went, which is causing a lot more downloads or our artifacts, which was which was a buggy code which got rolled out in production. So
10K. That is very that is very significant.
Yeah, and think of like if you are kind of, like how soon you detect it kind of changes the thing. Like if you're waiting till end of the month, like how much you leaked in terms of dollar amount is crazy.
That is shocking. 10 times the expense. You mentioned something real quick that I wanted to follow up on because we also had a question about it. You mentioned ML, so so that brings up the question: how is Harness using machine learning / AI in operations right now? Is it something you've really incorporated just a little bit or a lot, or kind of what is the status of that?
So Harness as a platform is, so we have this capability called ADA, so which is going across Harness platform, not just cloud cost management. So we are looking into like whole SDLC where we can leverage this AI and ML, and that we have been doing for since the beginning of when we started Harness. For cloud cost management, in particular, we are using these capabilities to do budget forecasts and anomaly detection are two very concrete examples where we are running these machine learning models to say, okay, like we have seen your cost and the seasonality of it, and if we want to project it for a quarter, for a year, are you gonna go over budget or how much you should plan? And the other is, okay, you like looking at the seasonality, and it seems like simple, but unless there is a model behind it, to say like is today's cost reasonable or should somebody be alerted. So those are the two concrete use cases for cloud cost management. We also started using Gen AI like for one of the dashboarding use case where you can like in the natural language you can ask a question and you will get automatically a dashboard with the visualization built for you. So that's a pretty cool feature. A lot of our customers love it, which we recently introduced.
Great. Jeffrey, did you want to speak to any of this? And one related thing is Harness using Harness or using your own products internally? And what are you seeing from that? What we traditionally will call dog fooding.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked a little bit about the anomaly detection feature that we have in our cloud cost product, and I remember very vividly early on when we first launched cloud cost management that we had an engineer, a sales engineer, writing a query that said "Hello World," and that query got like kind of out of control and cost us 10 grand. And fortunately, the anomaly detection was in place that we could stop it before it got too big. But that was a very specific example of something where having the anomaly detection was able to help. Another actual interesting case is helping us understand the cost of our cloud cost product, which sounds kind of weird, but we're able to look inside of our BigQuery costs and see what customers were actually costing us the most in terms of their queries. And that enabled our CS organization to work with the customers to help optimize those costs so that we could reduce the cost that we were incurring based on their query volume. So
very nice. Yeah, $10,000 to say hello world. That is a pretty expensive announcement, isn't it? So, okay, fantastic conversation. What I'd like to do now, guys, is move into some attendee questions. We've got some great ones coming in. So why don't we go into those? And here's the first one coming up that I have seen that's something that a lot of people are going to be asking, and that is this: how steep is the learning curve for Harness once you sign up?
Yeah, I think for cloud cost management, like what you have is if you are able to connect Harness to your account, like Harness will hydrate all the, and they're out of the box dashboards, and you should start getting value right there.
Okay. So that's good to know. It's, if you have the greatest solution in the world, but it takes a year to get comfortable with, people aren't going to really, be implementing it, are they? That's just the reality. So next question: how have you seen organizations scale your savings features across large enterprises and distributed teams? Either of you can take this one on.
Yeah, I think we have published a lot of case studies where people are able to achieve hundreds of thousands of savings just because auto stopping feature we have. So I think that there's a public case study we can point to where we the organization was the goal was if we reach 80K of the saving per month with the auto stopping, and they were able to 3x that in the time frame they were looking for, just because how repeatable the whole process is and how much they could how fast they could adopt the feature.
Okay, great. Here's one from Gary. He asks, FinOps is more than just cloud costs. How do you identify and manage those costs that extend beyond basic cloud costs?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Hopefully we have it on our roadmap to integrate more than just the large cloud vendors. I know, we consider other, infrastructure type spend, whether that's Mongo or Datadog or, any of the tools that are kind of touching or monitoring our infrastructure. We would include that in our quote unquote cloud costs. Today, the way that we are managing that is we leverage our CCM product for the large cloud vendors, and then we have in our financials models, we have a way to tag our various other cloud features, whether Snowflake or, like I mentioned, Datadog or those kinds of things. So, but okay. Yeah.
Great. Okay, Paul, who often asks great questions, has a really good one for this. And he wants to know, in this era of financial belt tightening with a lot of companies, absolutely true, how would Harness be able to minimize cloud bloat and streamline cloud use to minimize the need to scale up?
Probably.
So I think the question is more how do we so there are two things which are there. Automation is what the key here, right? You want to be doing things, growing but efficiently. So eliminating waste, that's where you are able to put policies where policies okay, unused instances, shut it down, and or the other feature would be right sizing the the instances. So we have these recommendation features which are constantly looking at the utilization and recommending for the right size, which with the action of a button you can take action. And the other thing which uh, Harness helps is with this whole FinOps cultural aspect. Like if you have the what I showed you, like we thought we are best in class FinOps culture till we enabled our asset governance and discovered there are like a lot more potential to eliminate waste. Because so I think in the end what you have is you need a automated tooling. Just be put an consistent focus on from the leadership to say, okay, this is what important for us, and which in this era, like I think every um board is asking all the companies to be looking at the belt tightening and are we doing things efficiently. And so in this world, like product like cloud cost management becomes even more important.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Next up, we've been talking about engineers and FinOps. Which one of those groups do you usually see working in the cloud cost management module? I don't know if you have any kind of data like that.
I mean, we can take ourselves as an example, but I know myself and my team are working inside of the CCM product itself to gather the cost visibility aspects primarily. And then we also have a FinOps role inside of the company who's really the main power user of CCM. And then I'm sure, engineering is also using it, but those are the.
So from engineering side, what I say is more and more of the configuration of automation rules is what engineers are finding most value versus coming every day looking at the dashboard. So things like where anomalies are coming, that's where coming in Slack where engineers live, so that they're engaging there a lot more.
Yeah, those are exactly the kind of things that engineers would be most interested in. Okay, got time for maybe a couple of more questions here. Got some really good ones coming in. And here's one I especially like. What metrics, if any, parenthetical remark, what metrics actually prove that implementing FinOps practices is making a difference? I don't know which one of you wants to take that one.
I can start from at least a high level, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but our goal is to minimize both our non-production cloud cost per developer. That's kind of our North Star metric that we look to leverage over time, and also our percent of production cloud costs as a percentage of our revenue. We would also like to see that come down over time. And if both of those things are coming down over time, but our cloud costs are rising, then it's generally probably a pretty good thing for the company. You could be a very high growth company. The absolute dollar of your cloud costs can be growing quite fast. But if the percentage of your cloud cost is coming down over time, then that is the ultimate measure to help understand whether or not the practices you have in place are coming down.
Okay, great. Puneet, here's one I want to ask you. As an engineer who's kind of right in the middle of this, what FinOps trends are you currently most excited about?
Yeah, I think what I'm excited about is this whole thing of like how much focus this field has taken, right? So like this is the conversation in executive suites now. How do we and because this has become the material cost and more customers are realizing this is important. So I think that is one. And how much going forward, I see with all uh, the momentous shift happening toward new kind of workloads, which are like LLMs and where people are running models. And
Right.
so what will be the practice for like cloud costs, best practices running there. I think that's where like I'm really intrigued to see like how we think about it, and we internally have discussions on like what can be done in the cloud cost space there as well. But that's something I think I'm looking forward to.
You and a lot of other people, that is for sure. Okay, we've got time for, I think, two more. So just great questions from everyone. Thank you so much. So here's an interesting one. And this will apply to new customers and also potential customers who are joining us today. As someone new to Harness cloud cost management, what are the features I should explore first? That's a really good. How do I get started? And as a follow-up, how do I get engineers to care about cloud costs? Puneet, that sounds like one that's right up your alley.
Yeah, if you want to try Harness, there's just go to Harness.io, sign up for it. We have free sign up. You can connect your cloud account and get started there. Also, you can book for a demo, and our team will reach out. The other question, how do you have your team care about? I think like what we have to make sure is like it becomes easier for them. Like one is they have visibility and they have ability to make an impact. So they should be able to take action. And how will they be able to take action is through they can configure things for like policy-based automation. So if they are able to configure those things, like the impact is going to be outsized versus like what whack-a-mole approach of like you are going across like past budget and somebody is escalating and doing things. So I think giving that culture of visibility. What I've seen work well is also like having this kind of leaderboard across teams. So that kind of starts with the healthy competition of okay, like who is ranked where, and like the conversation starts in the teams. So that is one good way of like having starting engineers to care about them. Engineers are very competitive, and if you want to have a cultural change, just put that as a metric out.
I have heard that about engineers. Yeah. Okay. And finally, today, maybe the most important question of all, and this one is for you, Jeff. I've seen you drinking from a Pittsburgh Steelers tumbler there. Are you a Steelers fan?
I am. I'm based in Pittsburgh, so yeah.
So now the big question, is it going to be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields next season? Give me the scoop.
I really hope it's Fields just because he's younger and he could be the future. He could be our quarterback for the next 10 years. But if it's Russell Wilson, so be it. I just care about winning at this point.
That was the question I knew everybody was asking. They just couldn't get into the Q&A in time. Well, Puneet and Jeff, this has been such a fun discussion. This is a topic that just doesn't get enough attention, doesn't get enough coverage, in my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for educating us on what Harness is doing. I think we've generated a lot of interest in your products and in your company today. And it was just a delight to have you on. Thank you so much for your time and insights.
Thanks, Keith.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that was a lot of fun. Before we wrap up today, though, we have one more piece of business to take care of, and that is the Amazon gift card prize drawing. As I mentioned at the beginning, you do have to be present during the entire event to be eligible to win the prize. And we do have a winner for today, and that winner is Aaron Ziff from Ohio. So congratulations to you, Aaron. We will be in touch ASAP to get you your card. And with that, folks, we're wrapped for this session. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Harness for making this event possible. I want to thank Puneet and Jeffrey for such an enjoyable discussion, so illuminating for me, and I hope it was for you too. And as always, thank you, the attendees, for being here, for your great questions. And that concludes the event. I will see you in the next one, and have a great rest of your day, folks.